I never thought a hedge could almost cost me my life. But the night I heard a truck barreling down the street straight for my house, I realized this was never about plants or property lines. It was about power. And when that engine roared closer, headlights off, aiming to ram my front porch, I knew the HOA wasn't just playing games anymore. They were willing to bury me to get what they wanted. That's when it all came crashing down, both literally and figuratively. And I had to decide, roll over or fight like hell. I've lived in the same quiet house in Oak Ridge, Texas, for more than a decade. Nothing fancy, just a modest place I'd fixed up with my own two hands. I'm a mechanic, so I like things that run smooth, that last. Out front, I planted a hedge when I first moved in, shaped it, watered it, cut it through summers and winters until it wasn't just a hedge anymore. It was part of me, a green wall that said, "This is my boundary. This is mine." And then, one morning, I stepped outside with my coffee, and it was crushed. Branches snapped, soil torn up, tire tracks deep like claws through the earth. At first, I told myself it had to be an accident. Some neighbor cut too close. But then it happened again and again. The next time, I bent down, touched the branches, and found bits of broken plastic, a jagged piece of a headlight casing. This wasn't some kid in a Honda. No, I knew cars. Whoever was doing this was driving something heavy, reinforced, the kind of SUV armored for impact. And whoever it was wasn't skimming by. They were aiming dead center. I went to the HOA meeting that week, laid it out in front of Karen Miller, the president of our HOA, the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood. She didn't even blink. She smirked and said, "Maybe your hedge sticks out too far. Maybe it's not compliant with HOA code." A couple of the board members nodded like trained parrots. I knew right then this wasn't some random vandal. Karen was behind it. I can still hear her voice, dripping with fake sweetness, but her eyes were sharp as nails. "You'd be doing yourself a favor if you moved that hedge back, or better yet, tore it out." She wanted me to fold, to just give up my line in the sand. But I didn't. I went home, pulled on my gloves, and started reinforcing. I buried steel rods under the soil, wedged stones around the roots, poured concrete where no one could see. If they wanted to plow through again, they were in for a surprise. A few nights later, right around 2 a.m., I heard it, the growl of an engine outside my window. I crept to the blinds and saw headlights stop, then rev forward. The SUV hit my hedge like a freight train. Except this time, my hedge didn't move. The front end of the truck crumpled like a soda can, metal screaming against steel hidden under dirt. The driver stumbled out, swearing loud enough to wake the street, and when the porch light hit his face, I recognized him, Danny Walsh, a contractor who'd been circling this neighborhood for months, a buddy of Karen's. He clutched his wrist, looked at me, and when he realized I was watching, he froze. But what caught my eye wasn't just his busted SUV. A duffel bag had spilled open on the passenger seat. Blueprints, contracts, documents. That was when it clicked. This wasn't vandalism. This was a setup. They wanted my property gone, because, without it, they couldn't run a new development straight through Oak Ridge. My hedge was in their way, and so was I. The next morning, Karen and two of her cronies marched up my driveway like they owned the place. Karen's lipstick smile couldn't hide the edge in her tone. "Mr. Walker, we're making you an offer, a very generous one. It's best for the community. You'll take it, won't you?" I told her straight. "This is my land. I'm not going anywhere." Her face tightened. The smile curdled, and she leaned in, whispering so only I could hear, "Then don't blame me for what happens next." From that moment, it escalated. A letter stuffed in my mailbox, cold legal jargon about buyouts and zoning changes, a brick left on my porch with a note wrapped around it. "Take the money, Walker." And the worst, when I checked under the hood of my truck, I saw it, clean and deliberate. The fuel line had been slit. If I hadn't caught it, I'd have broken down on the highway, maybe worse. That night, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the crumpled note, and for the first time, doubt ate at me. Maybe I was being stupid. Maybe I should just sell and leave. What was I fighting for? A hedge? A house I could replace somewhere else? And truthfully, I was tired. Tired of watching the street at night. Tired of waiting for the next hit. But then, I thought about Danny's bag. The papers. The way Karen acted like she already owned my land. They didn't just want me gone. They had already planned me out of existence. That rage lit something in me. If I gave in now, I wasn't just losing a hedge. I was handing them everything. I wasn't raised to bow down to bullies. That night, I decided, no more waiting. If they wanted to break me, they'd have to try harder. And they did. 2 nights later, a black sedan rolled slow past my house. A man in a dark suit stepped out, calm as if he was visiting an old friend. He knocked, and when I opened the door, his smile was as cold as his eyes. "You're making this complicated, Mr. Walker. We offered you more than fair. All you need to do is sign, and this ends." I held up the brick note. He didn't even flinch, just said, "That wasn't from me." His tone never shifted, but his words were sharp. "If you don't sell, things get unpleasant." I leaned against the door frame, forced a smirk. "You mean like slashing my fuel line?" That wiped the smug look off his face for half a second, and I knew I had him. He handed me a card with only a number. Said I had a week. I watched him leave, and my gut told me it wasn't a week I'd get, it was less. I wasn't wrong. The very next night, I found a dog dead near my mailbox, neck snapped clean. It wasn't mine, but it was a message. That was the line. They were telling me, we can take lives. That same week, just past midnight, I caught someone crouched at my garage door. Young kid, early 20s, dressed in black. I grabbed a crowbar, crept behind, and slammed it into his knee. He crumpled, screaming. I pinned him against the wall and growled. "Who sent you?" He spat the name, Walsh. I let him limp off into the dark, but in my chest, the decision was made. This was war. The next move came hard and fast. Around 3 in the morning, a truck rolled to the end of my street, engine low, lights off. Then it revved, tires screaming as it charged straight at my house. I grabbed the shotgun I keep behind the door, stepped onto the porch, and fired one blast into the sky. The boom echoed across the neighborhood. The truck skidded, then jerked into reverse and tore off. My heart pounded. My hands shook. But I wasn't scared anymore. I was furious. That morning, I drove to City Hall and pulled every permit, every zoning change tied to Walsh's company, buried in the paperwork. I found it. Documents granting development rights on land that wasn't even sold yet, including mine. They had already counted me as gone. The HOA had signed off. Karen's name was on it. That was my proof. I copied everything, sent it to a reporter friend, a council member, even a lawyer who had refused my case before. Suddenly, it wasn't just my fight. It was public. By evening, it exploded. Local news plastered Walsh's shady deals all over TV. Reporters camped at City Hall. HOA meetings turned into screaming matches. And Karen? She tried to spin it, of course. Walked around telling anyone who'd listen. We did this for the community, for progress. But nobody was buying it. I'll never forget the look on her face when the cops showed up at her door. She tried to stand tall, lipstick smile trembling as she barked. "You can't do this! I'm the HOA president!" But when the officer slapped cuffs on her wrists, that power melted away. She shouted about misunderstandings, about being set up, but it was too late. The papers, the signatures, the money trails, they nailed her. I stood on my porch, arms crossed, watching the flashing red and blue lights bounce off my battered hedge. The same hedge they tried to erase, now standing stronger than ever. Karen screamed as they pushed her into the back of the cruiser, her voice shrill and desperate, carrying down the street. But I didn't move. I didn't smile. I just let the silence settle, the cool night air washing over me. Because for the first time in months, the neighborhood was quiet. They tried to bury me under fear, threats, and lies. But in the end, they buried themselves. And as the taillights of that police car disappeared, I finally breathed easy, knowing this was my land, my fight, and I had won it. The lesson? Never hand your life to a bully in a suit or a power-forward drunk HOA president. Stand your ground, because justice hits harder than any SUV. And that's the truth we tell here. On HOA Drama Unfolded.